There is a number the federal government uses to define financial stress: 30%. If you spend more than 30% of your income on housing, the Department of Housing and Urban Development classifies you as cost-burdened. The word sounds clinical. The experience is not. Cost-burdened means choosing between rent and groceries, between the mortgage and the health care, between staying in the city you built your life in and moving somewhere your paycheck can actually reach. Nationally, nearly half of all renter households in the United States were cost-burdened in 2023. 21 million households. That is not a housing problem. That is a structural feature of the American economy that has become the central financial fact of daily life for tens of millions of people. We are counting down 10 American cities where the cost of living has become so disconnected from what people actually earn that the word affordable has stopped meaning anything at all. Every number on this list comes from the U.S. Census Bureau, the Department of Housing and Urban Development, and verified local cost data. Nothing here is speculation. Everything here is documented. Subscribe now because number 1 on this list has the highest monthly household bills of any major city in the United States, 74% above the national average, and is still being marketed as a hub of opportunity. The opportunity exists. It just does not exist for the people who clean the offices. Let's count it down. Number 10. Austin, Texas. The city that doubled its rents in 3 years and called it growth. Austin was the affordable alternative. That was the pitch for the better part of 2 decades. No state income tax, a thriving tech scene, a cost of living that made it possible to do what could not be done in San Francisco or New York, actually build savings while building a career. Then the pandemic happened. Everyone who could leave the coasts did, and a significant number of them moved to Austin. The median rent in the Austin metro went from approximately $1,327 a month in 2019 to a peak of $1,725 in 2022, a 30% increase in 3 years, in a city that marketed itself specifically on the premise that it was not expensive. Austin has since built aggressively. More new housing permits per 1,000 existing homes than almost any large metro in the country in 2024. Rents have come down from the peak, and 52% of renters in the Austin metro area were still spending more than 30% of their income on housing as of 2024, according to Harvard University's Joint Center for Housing Studies, the highest share in at least a decade. Among middle-income renters earning between $30,000 and $75,000, 77% were cost-burdened, up from 64% in 2019. In 5 years, Austin built its way toward a softer rental market. It has not built its way to an affordable one. Living in Austin is like getting a deal at a restaurant that has raised its prices 3 times since the deal was printed on the menu. The menu still says deal. The math says otherwise. Number 9, Washington, D.C., the highest median household income of any jurisdiction in the nation. 45% of renters still cannot afford the rent. Washington, D.C. has the highest median household income of any jurisdiction in the United States, $109,707, according to the Census Bureau's 2024 American Community Survey. That is not a city where the average household is struggling by national standards. That is a city whose federal government, law firms, lobbying operations, and technology contractors pull the median upward in ways that do not describe most of the people who actually live and work inside it. The cost of living in Washington, D.C. is 42% above the national average. The average home price stands at $638,400. For a renter, the average one-bedroom in the city is approximately $2,160 a month on the open market, and significantly higher for new listings. To afford a one-bedroom at market rate without being cost-burdened, a D.C. renter would need to earn approximately $87,000 a year. The median household income of D.C. renters is considerably lower than the citywide median because the high-earning federal contractors and attorneys who pull the median up tend to own rather than rent. According to the D.C. Fiscal Policy Institute's 2025 analysis, 44.7% of district renters are cost-burdened. Among black renters, the figure is 54.5%. More than a third of full-time workers in the district are rent-burdened, even working 40 hours a week. The city that governs the most powerful country in the world has not found a way to house the people who make it function at a price they can afford. That is not irony. That is a data point. Living in Washington, D.C. is like working in the institution that sets the rules for housing policy in the entire country and still not being able to afford a 2-bedroom apartment in the city where that institution is located. Number 8. Denver, Colorado. The affordable alternative to California that is no longer an alternative to anything. Denver was the city people moved to when they could not afford the coasts. Wide open spaces. Rocky Mountain backdrop. A cost of living that felt like a reasonable compromise between quality of life and what a salary could actually cover. That version of Denver is functionally gone. The median home price in Denver stood at $550,000 in late 2024. Colorado is the 8th most expensive state in the nation for renters, according to the National Low-Income Housing Coalition. 51% of Colorado renters are cost-burdened, according to a 2025 report by McKinsey & Company commissioned by Mile High United Way. More than a quarter are severely cost-burdened, spending more than 50% of their income on housing. The insurance costs have become their own crisis. Colorado has the 4th highest homeowner insurance premiums in the country, driven by wildfire risk and extreme weather. Premiums increased between 17 and 22% in 2024 alone. Master insurance policy premiums for homeowner associations rose so sharply that HOA dues reached $700 a month in some developments. Denver also has a structural problem that compounds every other problem. 77% of Denver's land is zoned exclusively for single-family homes. The supply of denser, more affordable housing is legally restricted across the majority of the city's landmass. The problem was designed into the zoning code decades ago. The zoning code is still there. Living in Denver is like moving somewhere specifically because it was not California and then watching it become California one insurance premium at a time. Number 7. Boston, Massachusetts. The 3rd most expensive rental market in the country, outside California, still proud of its universities. Greater Boston is the 3rd most expensive metropolitan area in the country for single-family home prices, according to the Massachusetts state government's 2024 affordability analysis. The median single-family home in Greater Boston is $950,000. To afford that home without being cost-burdened, a household needs an annual income of approximately $162,000. For renters, the situation is not softer. The average rent in Boston is approximately $3,500 a month, according to RentCafe and Apartments.com. 2025 data. Only New York City, San Jose, San Francisco, and San Diego have higher rents than Boston, according to the Boston Foundation's 2025 Greater Boston Housing Report Card. Utilities in Boston are 52% above the national average. More than half of renters in Greater Boston are cost-burdened. More than 1 in 4, severely cost-burdened, spending more than half their income on housing. The residential vacancy rate in 2024 was 3%, among the lowest of any major American city. At that vacancy rate, a landlord does not need to negotiate. The next applicant is already in the queue. Massachusetts home prices have risen 73% in real dollar terms since the year 2000. Inflation-adjusted household income over the same period grew 4%. That gap, 73 versus 4, is not a housing crisis. It is a documented, multi-decade outcome of a city that built too little for too long and is still trying to catch up. Living in Boston is like attending one of the most prestigious institutions in the world and discovering that the degree it produces is not sufficient to afford to stay in the city where the institution is located. Number 6. Seattle, Washington. The tech economy raised all boats. The tech economy also raised rents. Seattle's technology boom transformed the city's economy in ways that economists write case studies about. Amazon, Microsoft, and a constellation of technology companies created a concentration of high-salary employment that pushed the median household income upward and made Seattle one of the most economically productive metros in the country. It also pushed housing costs upward at the same rate, in the same direction. Because housing supply in a city constrained by geography, water, and restrictive zoning cannot respond as quickly as a tech hiring wave. According to SmartAsset's 2025 study of Census Bureau data, housing costs in Seattle absorb more than 28% of the median household income, technically just inside the cost burden threshold, and only for a household earning at the precise Seattle median. For a household earning below the median, the people who staff the restaurants, clean the offices, drive the rideshare vehicles, care for the children of the tech workers, the ratio is considerably worse. Seattle's median rent for a one-bedroom apartment is above $2,000 a month. The median home price is above $800,000. The teachers and nurses and transit operators who keep the city functional are not earning tech sector salaries. They are paying tech sector costs. The tech economy raised Seattle. The people who service that economy are being priced out of it. These two things are simultaneously true. The first gets written about far more often than the second. Living in Seattle is like winning a lottery that pays very well for some people in the building and uses that payment as the justification for charging everyone else in the building more than they can reasonably afford. Subscribe now. We are halfway through. The 5 cities ahead are where the math between what it costs to live and what people actually earn is the most extreme, the most documented, and in some cases the most aggressively ignored. Number 1 has the highest household bills of any major American city, 74% above the national average. Subscribe and keep watching. Number 5. Miami, Florida. Number 1 in the country for housing costs as a share of income. Median household income, $59,000. Miami is the most expensive city in the United States for housing as a share of income. That is the finding of SmartAsset's 2025 analysis of U.S. Census Bureau data covering the 50 largest American cities. For Miami residents, more than 36% of gross household income goes to housing. The national guideline is 28%. The national average is roughly 21%. Miami is at 36%. The median household income in Miami is $59,390, nearly $20,000 below the national median. The average monthly rent is approximately $2,710, according to Rent Cafe 2026 data. 2/3 of Miami households rent. For those renters, the arithmetic requires a household earning approximately $108,000 a year to pay average rent without being cost-burdened. The median income is $59,000. The gap is $49,000. That gap, between what the market requires and what the median household earns, is the lived experience of renting in Miami for the people who actually live there, as opposed to the people who fly in for a weekend. Florida has also experienced some of the fastest insurance cost growth in the country, driven by hurricane risk and rising property valuations. According to Census Bureau data, Florida has the highest number of homeowners, 1.2 million, paying $4,000 or more annually for property insurance, more than any other state. Miami is extraordinary. It is also a city where the median renter cannot afford the median rent. Both of those things are true. Living in Miami is like being invited to a party on a yacht and handed the bill for the fuel. Number 4. San Diego, California. 60% above the national average. California's affordable option is a punchline that nobody printed. San Diego is California's supposed affordable alternative. Not San Francisco. Not Los Angeles. San Diego. The one where a teacher can maybe, eventually, afford to rent within a 40-minute drive of the school where they work, if the commute and the fuel costs do not undo the calculation before it clears. The cost of living in San Diego runs approximately 60% above the national average, according to Mercer Index data. The average monthly rent across all property types is approximately $2,400. The median home price exceeds $800,000. San Jose, New York, Boston, and San Francisco are the only cities with higher monthly household bills than San Diego among the 50 largest cities in the country, according to Doxo's 2024 Household Spend Report. Among the 50 largest American cities, San Diego recorded one of the largest declines in middle-class households between 2017 and 2022, according to MoneyGeek's analysis of census data. The middle class is not leaving because San Diego is struggling. It is leaving because San Diego is doing very well for the people at the top of the income distribution and charging everyone else a premium they can no longer sustain. The military presence that anchors San Diego's economy provides stable employment. It does not provide housing that matches its pay grades. A junior enlisted service member's base pay does not cover a market-rate one-bedroom in the city they are assigned to serve. Living in San Diego is like being told the weather makes up for the rent. The weather is genuinely excellent. It does not appear on the housing ledger. Number 3. Honolulu, Hawaii, the highest cost of living state in the nation. And almost everything has to be shipped across 2,000 miles of ocean. Hawaii has the highest cost of living index of any state in the United States. The index stands at approximately 193, meaning the cost of living in Hawaii is nearly double the national average, according to Council for Community and Economic Research data. In Honolulu specifically, housing costs are approximately 199% above the national average. Utilities are 93% above. Groceries are 32% above. A gallon of milk costs approximately $7.79. A loaf of bread costs approximately $5.97. A family of 4 spends between $1,000 and $1,500 a month on groceries. The reason is geography. Almost everything consumed in Hawaii has to be shipped from the mainland across more than 2,000 miles of Pacific Ocean. That shipping cost is not a surcharge. It is baked into every price in the state, every receipt, every utility bill, every mortgage. The median home price on Oahu is approximately $1.5 million. To afford average rent in Honolulu without being cost-burdened, a household needs to earn approximately $100,000 a year. The median household income in Honolulu is approximately $72,454, according to census data. The income and the requirement do not meet. Hawaii has made real investments in preserving some affordable housing. The mismatch between what it costs to live here and what most residents earn has persisted for decades. Living in Honolulu is like paying the highest admission price in the country for a destination that is genuinely as extraordinary as advertised, and then discovering that the extraordinary part costs extra on top of that. Number 2. New York City, New York. Median, asking rent, $3,500. Income needed to not be burdened, $140,000. Actual median income, $75,000. The New York City Comptroller's January 2024 Spotlight report on the rental market contains a sentence that requires no editorial comment. The median asking rent on publicly listed apartments in New York City is $3,500 a month. At that rent, a household needs to earn $140,000 annually to not be cost-burdened under the standard 30% threshold. The median household income in New York City is approximately $75,000. The difference is $65,000 a year. $65,000. 52.1% of New York City renter households spend more than 30% of their income on rent. More than 1 in 4, approximately 29%, spend more than half their income on housing. Even among households earning the city's median income of $60,000 to $80,000, nearly 40% are rent-burdened, not low-income. Median. Nearly 40%. New York City has approximately 3 million cost-burdened households. That number represents 3 million distinct daily calculations about which bill gets paid and which one gets delayed. New York has the largest rent-regulated housing stock of any American city. It has decades of subsidized housing programs. With all of those mechanisms in place, $65,000 still separates the median income from the income required not to be cost-burdened by the market rent. Living in New York is like running in a city that keeps extending the race course by the time you reach what you thought was the finish line. You keep running. The line keeps moving. Number 1, San Jose, California. $3,695 a month in bills. 74% above the national average. The single most expensive city in America for household costs, still growing. San Jose residents pay an average of $3,695 a month in household bills. That is the finding of Doxo's 2024 Household Spend Report, which analyzed actual bill payment data from more than 10 million households across more than 97% of U.S. zip codes. $3,695, 74% above the national average of $2,126. The single most expensive city in the United States for monthly household expenses. To be considered middle class in San Jose requires a household income of at least $104,499, according to Smart Assets 2025 census analysis. $104,000, that is the floor, not the median, the floor. A nurse, a teacher, a paralegal, all starting below the local middle class entry point. The technology sector that made San Jose what it is, the heart of Silicon Valley, home to companies whose combined market capitalizations exceed the economic output of most countries, did not build San Jose for the people who do not work in tech. It built the economy for the engineers and the product managers and the investors, and the housing market followed the economy in the same direction at the same pace until the people who staff the hospitals and teach the children and maintain the infrastructure of Silicon Valley became functionally unable to afford to live inside the economy they sustain. The innovation is real. The affordability problem is also real. The people who fund one are not the ones solving the other. Living in San Jose is like working inside the engine room of the global economy and not having enough left over at the end of the month to buy a ticket to see what the engine room produces. The pattern across this list does not require interpreting. Yawn. Housing supply has not kept pace with demand in the cities people most want to live in. Wages have not kept pace with costs in the cities where wages are already highest. And the people who perform the labor that makes these cities function, the nurses, the teachers, the transit operators, the service workers, the infrastructure maintainers, are being priced out of the places where their labor is required. Nationally, nearly 50% of renter households are cost-burdened. The cities on this list are not aberrations. They are the concentrated, visible expression of a problem distributed across almost every zip code in the country. The 30% rule has not changed. The rent has. The income has not kept pace. And the cities on this list are the places where that gap is the widest, the oldest, and the most thoroughly documented by the agencies that are supposed to address it. Subscribe and check out the rest of the series, the states, the counties, and the cities where the numbers say things the marketing has been slow to acknowledge. Thanks for watching.